Welcome back to Notorious Figures in History. In the sprawling concrete canyons of New York City, power has always been a commodity. It is bought, sold, and often taken by force. But what if one man held so much power that he could bring the world's busiest port to a complete standstill with a single word? Imagine a figure so influential that politicians and police captains alike knew better than to cross him. This was the reality of Anastasio, a name that has largely faded from the headlines, yet once commanded more raw authority over the Brooklyn waterfront than any mayor or tycoon. He was a cornerstone of the American mafia, a man whose story is essential to understanding the true reach of organized crime. They called him Tough Tony. It was a name earned not through flashy violence, but through an unshakable control over the lifeblood of New York, its docks. While his infamous brother, Albert Anastasia, led the feared execution squad known as Murder Inc., Tony wielded a different, yet equally formidable weapon. He controlled the unions, he controlled the jobs, he controlled the flow of goods in and out of the most important harbour on the planet. Through his leadership of the International Longshoremen Association, he built an empire founded on extortion, corruption, and absolute loyalty, making him one of the most powerful, yet strangely overlooked figures in the Gambino crime family's history. Our journey today takes us deep into this forgotten chapter of mob history. We will explore the rise of a man who preferred the shadows to the spotlight, a strategist who understood that true power wasn't just about pulling a trigger, but about controlling the livelihoods of thousands. Anastasio was born in Tropea, Italy in 1906, and like so many others, he arrived in America seeking a new beginning. Portrait of a young Anastasio in a suit, his expression intense and unsmiling, capturing his formidable presence. He and his brothers, including the notoriously violent Albert, found their way to the tough, unforgiving streets of Red Hook, Brooklyn. It was here, amidst the poverty and desperation of the early 20th century, that young Anthony learned his first lessons in survival and power. The world was not a kind place, and he quickly understood that respect was something you took, not something you were given. He decided early on which side he would be on. His early years were spent navigating the complex underworld of Prohibition-era New York. It was a time of immense opportunity for those willing to break the law. Tony, alongside his brother Albert, quickly fell in with the burgeoning Italian-American gangs. He worked closely with some of the most legendary figures in mob history, Joe, the boss Masseria Charles, Lucky Luciano. These relationships were his education, teaching him the art of organization, conspiracy, and, most importantly, the business of crime. By combining those lessons with the unique opportunity of the Brooklyn waterfront, Tony set his sights on a prize few men ever won: control of the docks. Tony Anastasio's genius was in recognizing the untapped power of the Brooklyn waterfront. He saw that controlling the men who loaded and unloaded the ships, the longshoremen, meant controlling everything. He methodically infiltrated the International Longshoremen's Association, starting as a union delegate, rising through the ranks. He didn't seize power overnight. He built it brick by brick, favor by favor, threat by threat. By the 1940s, he was the undisputed boss of 6 ILA Locals in Brooklyn, giving him absolute command over thousands of workers and the billions of dollars in goods they handled. This system, known as the Shape-Up, forced desperate men to gather each morning, hoping to be chosen by a hiring boss loyal to Anastasio. Those who paid their kickbacks, who showed the proper respect, were given work. Those who did not, or those who dared to complain, were left to starve. Under Tony's rule, the docks became a criminal supermarket: theft, smuggling, extortion. If a shipment of expensive furs or electronics arrived, a portion of it would simply disappear from the pier, spirited away by Anastasio's men. Companies that wanted their cargo unloaded quickly and without accidents had to pay a labor peace tax directly to Tony. He could call a strike at a moment's notice, paralyzing a shipping line and costing it millions a day. The threat was always implicit: pay up or your business will be strangled. Tough Tony's influence was magnified by his deep-rooted connections to powerful mobsters. Chief among them was Charles Lucky Luciano. Their loyalty during the Castellamarese conflict and afterward placed Tony at the heart of the new power structure known as the Commission. Life under Tough Tony's reign was a mixture of routine corruption and simmering violence. His days were not spent in back-alley shootouts, but in offices and union halls where he conducted his business like a corporate executive. He held court from his ILA headquarters. His power was so absolute that he once famously remarked, "They say my brother Albert is the executioner. That's not true. I am." One famous story tells of two foolish stick-up men who decided to rob a card game being held in one of Tony's social clubs. After they fled with the money, an enraged Anastasio put the word out on the street. Within hours, they were found, not by the police, but by Tony's enforcers. They were beaten severely and dragged back to the club. In a chilling display of power, Tony returned their weapons and told them to leave. In 1957, his brother Albert was spectacularly assassinated in a barber shop, a hit tied to Carlo Gambino and Vito Genovese. Suddenly, Tony's greatest protector was gone. Many believed Tony would be next. But in a masterful act of self-preservation, he immediately and publicly allied himself with his brother's killer, Carlo Gambino, pledging his loyalty and the continued loyalty of his waterfront empire. This pragmatic decision saved his life and secured his position, though his dynamics of power had shifted. The federal government, armed with new anti-racketeering laws, began to intensify its pressure on organized crime and corrupt labor unions. The Waterfront Commission of New York Harbor, established in the 1950s, chipped away at his control and ended the dreaded shape-up. As shipping containerization revolutionized the industry, the need for massive crews dwindled, and with it the union power Tony had exploited. His death in 1963 from a heart attack was surprisingly peaceful for a man who had lived such a violent life. He died in his bed, a wealthy and powerful man to the very end. History tends to remember the gunmen, the godfathers, the public spectacles. It often forgets the quiet strategists. Tough Tony's legacy was systems and control, the model of labor racketeering copied across the country. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of notorious figures in history. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe for more stories about the hidden figures who shaped our world from the shadows. If you enjoyed this short documentary of this notorious figure, please kindly take a look at the other full-length videos on our channel. This helps us grow organically while giving you more interesting content to enjoy. Leave a comment if you would like to recommend any notorious figures you would like to see on our channel. Until next time, cheers.